Good morning. It's Snowman Week here at the Lisbon Hepburn Library. My name is Michelle McClagan, and today our craft project is to make a rocking snowman. If you had the opportunity to already pick up your craft supplies, we can craft along together this morning. If you haven't picked up any supplies yet, I do have some kits left. Feel free to stop in and pick up one. So what we're going to do to make this rocking snowman is we're going to take the craft kit, which is this right here. It has some orange for a carrot nose. It has two different colors, and everybody's got different colors that you can use to make the buttons and to make the scarf. And then it has a piece of brown that you can use to make the arms, the eyes, the hat. Now, feel free to use the colors however you wish. Everybody has a different idea of what they want their snowman to look like. You will also have an instruction sheet. It does have a photo of the completed project, so you have something to look at. And then you have a paper plate. It's all stapled together, so you'll want to carefully remove the staple. And then what you will have is a paper plate, and you will have some pieces of cardstock. These are the ones I had from my first snowman, so I'm going to reuse those. You will definitely need a pair of scissors, and you will need something to glue, tape, or staple things together. So I do have some tape, I have a stapler, and I have some glue here. So we'll start with our first step, which is to take the paper plate and to take your scissors, and you want to cut it exactly in half, or as close in half as you can get. And that way you will be able to make two snowmen with your supplies. So we'll just cut right across that paper plate. So now I have two halves of the paper plate. I'm going to set one of those aside, and I'm going to take this half and I'm going to flip it over so that I'm looking at the bottom of the paper plate. And then I'm going to kind of try and roll it into a cone. So it's kind of making it into thirds, but I want it to be in a cone shape, and I don't want to crunch it down. I don't want to flatten it. If you look at my other snowman here, there's a space in the middle, and that's what allows him to sit up and not topple over. We don't want him to fall over. So we'll take it like this. Now you can use glue in here, but I find that then you have to hold it for quite a while. So it was a little easier for me to use my stapler, and nobody's really going to see the back side of the snowman anyhow. So then I just came along and I put a couple of staples in my snowman. There we go. And then you want to just kind of crunch it a little bit, but now it sits up and my snowman will rock back and forth. Okay, so the next step that we have is to take whichever color you want to use to make your hat. Now I'm going to choose to make a brown hat, but you can use any of the colors that you have. And then I'm going to take my scissors, and I found that the easiest thing to do was to cut the center part of the hat first. So that's the big part that goes right up here at the top. And then I went from there and I made little cuts like this. And then I cut across and made the bottom of the hat. So this makes a hat that's way bigger than I really wanted, but at least I know what size it is. So I can hold it up to my snowman and I can decide that that's too big. And I can decide to trim off the ends a little bit and make it a little bit shorter. And then what I want to do once I have that is I want to take my glue. You can use a glue stick, or you can use a squeeze bottle of glue. And I'm just going to take some glue and I'm going to put it pretty much just around the bottom part of my snowman's hat. And I'm going to put it out towards the edges a little bit, and I'm going to make sure I use plenty of glue, because with the curve, it was a little hard to make it stick. So I kind of had to hold it down for a little while. And then I had to go back and actually put some more glue on it too. So there is my snowman's hat. And then the next thing that I was going to do was to do a scarf. So on this snowman, I made a purple scarf, but on my new snowman, I'm going to make a green scarf. And you can see where I had used this paper before to make the buttons on my other snowman. I found when I was doing the scarf that it was easier to cut this part first and then to cut the part that goes around his neck. So I'm going to come in and I want it to be a little bit pointy and maybe it's blowing in the wind just a little bit. And then I want to come back and do that other piece. And because it's tied, I actually want to have two pieces sticking out from his neck. And then I'm just going to keep cutting and I'm going to make a nice long piece that would go around his neck. Then once I've done that, I want to figure out kind of where I want it to be and how long I want it to be. And maybe I want to trim that edge a little bit. And then I think I'm going to cut a little bit off here and narrow it down just a tiny bit at the far end. So that kind of gives me what I want there. So then I'm going to take some glue with my glue stick and I'm going to put glue on just the part that's going to go around his neck. So I don't want to glue all the way out here. So once I get some glue, then I'm going to come back and decide right about there is where I want his scarf to go. And again, I just kind of hold down a little bit and I stick my finger inside the snowman. I can push down all the way along without crunching the snowman. So there is my scarf. The next thing that I think I want to cut out is going to be his carrot nose. And I'm going to make his nose orange. And the way I started that was really just to kind of do something sort of long and carrot-like. And then I'll just kind of round that off a little bit. I want to make it a little bit pointy towards the end, like carrots usually look. There we go. And then I just want a little bit of rounding off at the back too. So there I have a carrot nose. It doesn't look exactly like my first carrot nose, but everybody's carrot noses are going to look a little bit different. And again, if I want it to stick out a little bit, then I'm not going to glue the very, very tip down. So I get my glue and get my snowman. And I want to put his nose right there. Now, if you want to make his nose face the other way, you can make his nose face the other way. The same thing with the scarf. This is up to everybody to decide what they want to do. The next thing that I'm going to take is my brown. I want to make two eyes. Now, I am horrible, apparently, at cutting circles into, well, tiny circles. I do okay on big circles. So I have a big paper cutter, or I'm sorry, a hole punch, and I am going to make a couple of holes with my hole punch. And you may have a hole punch at home. You may have a big one that does 3 holes at the same time, so you can put things into a notebook. Or you may have just a little one that you squeeze with your hands and they make the perfect size circles, or just use your scissors and cut them out. So I'm going to go back over here to my glue, and I find that it's easier to rub my eyes on the glue stick than to try and put it down on the table. I don't get glue everywhere on the table. I just get glue on my fingers, which I can go wash my hands when I'm finished. So there's one eye, and here is my second little snowman eye. Now, if you want your snowman to have different colored eyes than brown, you don't have to do the same color that I did. You can choose whatever color you want. If your kit had blue and you have blue eyes and you want your snowman to match, you could do that, or green or any color. It doesn't matter. It's all up to your choice. So there we've got a snowman with eyes and a nose and a scarf and a hat. And the only thing we need to do now are some arms and some little buttons for the front of him. Now you can always decide that you want to use your paper and cut something different. Maybe you want to do little heart-shaped buttons, or you want to give him a shirt or a coat. You can do that. You have some extra paper for those things. Now, I'm going to do his arms next. So I'm going to take this same piece of brown that I used to do his hat and to do his eyes. And just like with the scarf, it was easier to do the pointy parts here first. So I'm going to come in here and let's see, I want to do a pointy thing for one of the twigs, and then I'm going to cut another one. And they don't have to be straight, because remember, these are just like tree branches. So I'm going to do different ones. And then once you've got 3 pieces sticking out, or you can do 2, or you can do 5 if you want them to have 5. Then I'm going to come and I'm going to cut a nice long narrow piece here too. And then I'm going to do another one. And again, they do not have to match at all, because I think if you go out in the woods and you get some twigs, like we saw in the story that we read on Wednesday, you're going to find that none of them look exactly the same as the next one. So we're going to give that one a little bit of a different shape. And then we'll come along and I'll flip it over. It's a little easier to cut that way. And finish that off. And then they don't all have to be the same length either. So we'll make some little adjustments to those. And then I'm going to do the same thing here. I want to make one of them a little bit shorter than the other. Now I'm going to decide, are my snowman arms, are they too long? Because I cut them nice and long so that I could decide where I wanted to put them and were they the right size. So this one is definitely too long. So I'll make it about the same length as the other one and just kind of cut off the end there. And then you can decide if you want him to be waving, which is kind of what this one was doing, or if you want both of his arms down, or maybe you want both of them up. It is entirely your decision. But just like some of the other things, we only want to glue the part that's going to be sticking to the paper plate. So we don't want to glue all the way to the end. So I'm going to do this one, and I think I'm going to do kind of the same arrangement that I had before, just because that way you can see what I did. But you can do whatever you want to with those snowman arms. And then I'm going to take the second one and I'm going to get some glue on it as well. And now I'm going to let him wave. So that is my second snowman arm. So next, I want to do 4 buttons. You can do 2 buttons, you can do 1 button, you can do 5 buttons. You can do as many as you want. And if you're like me and you don't cut great little teeny tiny circles and you don't have a hole punch, you can use a marker, you can use crayons, you can use colored pencils, and you can just draw them on. So I'm going to take my paper cutter again, and I am going to take, I have a scrap piece of green right here, and stick that in and see what I can do to come up with 4 little holes. All right, some of those didn't cut all the way through, but I can make that work. There's 2 of them. And I'll just take my little scissors here. Sometimes it's hard to get a little tiny piece in the paper hole cutter. There's another one. And there's a fourth one. So I just need 4. That's all I want today. So again, take my glue and take my little green button. And you know what? I could have done purple and then it would have been a different color, but that's okay. I've already cut the green ones and that's fine. And anyhow, this way his buttons match his scarf, which maybe that's what this particular snowman wanted to do. Sometimes it's nice to have things that match, and sometimes it's nice to have things that are very different. So there we've got 3 buttons, and you just need to kind of let that glue dry. And somewhere I think I lost one of my buttons. I probably knocked it on the floor. So let me go and make a spare. There we go. Sometimes with the small pieces, they do get kind of lost. All right, and like I did with some of my other pieces, I'm just gonna put my fingers up inside the bottom part of the snowman so that I can push down everything and it will stay glued on. So there I have my snowman. I want to be sure I put the lid back on my glue and take care of all of my scrap pieces of paper. So my kit made 2 snowmen. I have spare pieces now because I just cut a paper plate for you. So I do have a second piece of paper plate, and I still have plenty of pieces of scrap paper that I can make my second snowman. But I have my sample here. So we have 2 snowmen, 2 rocking snowmen that if you just tap them lightly, they will rock on the table for you. And now we've got a pair. So that is our snowman craft for today. Thank you very much for joining us for craft time at the Lisbon Hepburn Library. My name is Michelle McClagan, and I look forward to seeing you next time.